Dialogue.
Hello, English learners, and welcome to EnglishPod. My name is Marco.
I'm Amira.
Amira and I are here today with another interesting and useful lesson for you English learners. Amira, why don't you explain a little bit of what this lesson is about today?
It's about calling in sick.
Oh, okay. That's useful.
Yes, definitely. It happens to everyone. Once in a while, you don't feel so well, or you feel well, but you don't want to go to work.
Right.
So you call in sick.
Okay. Let's listen to this dialogue, and I want everyone to keep their ears open and see if the boss believes this person.
Let's listen.
Hello, Daniel speaking. How may I help you?
Hi, Daniel. Julie here.
Oh, hi, Julie. How are you?
Actually, I'm feeling quite ill today.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. What's wrong?
I think I'm coming down with the flu. I have a headache, a sore throat, a runny nose, and I'm feeling slightly feverish.
I see. So you're calling in sick.
Yes, I was hoping to take the day off to recover.
Okay, then. Try and get some rest.
Marco, do you think he believed her?
No, I don't think he believed her. He didn't sound really convinced.
Yes, and Julie didn't sound really sick, huh?
Exactly. Well, we have some really good vocabulary here. Amira, why don't you begin with the first one?
The first phrase I've chosen for you is a very, very useful one. I'm feeling quite ill today.
I'm feeling quite ill today.
I'm feeling quite ill today.
All right, what does this mean exactly?
It means that she's feeling sick.
Oh, okay, that's clear. So she is sick. She's feeling sick. Okay, let's look at another really useful phrase, and this one is I'm coming down with the flu.
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 All right, and this phrase means that I am starting to get the flu or I am getting the flu.
Okay, the next phrase I have for you is calling in sick.
Calling in sick.
Calling in sick.
Calling in sick.
It means calling your boss to tell him that you can't come to work today. I personally love this phrase because it saves so much time and explanations.
Okay, perfect. So if I say this, then everyone will know that I am not coming to work today.
Yes, definitely.
Perfect. All right. And the last phrase that we're going to take a look at today is I was hoping to take the day off.
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 Right. And she says this to ask for permission because she does not want to go to work.
Okay, now, couldn't she just say, like, I can't come today?
Right. She could say, I can't come today, but that would be a little bit impolite.
Okay, so when she says, I was hoping to take the day off, it's a polite way of asking.
It's a polite way. Exactly. Because she is talking to her boss.
Very good. So let's listen to the dialogue one more time. The dialogue is a little different this time. Listen carefully and see if you think the boss believes her this time.
Hello, Daniel speaking. How may I help you?
Hi, Daniel. Julie here.
Oh, hi, Julie. How are you?
Actually, I'm feeling quite ill today.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. What's wrong?
I think I'm coming down with the flu. I have a headache, a sore throat, a runny nose, and I'm feeling slightly feverish.
I see. So you're calling in sick?
Yes, I was hoping to take the day off to recover.
Okay, then. Try and get some rest.
Okay, guys, we're back. And I do think he believed her this time.
Yeah, I think he was understanding when he said, okay, then try and get some rest.
Yeah, and Julie sounded pretty sick.
Yes, she did.
Yeah, it was convincing.
Well, you know what? I almost called in sick last week.
Really?
Yeah, I wasn't feeling very well, and so I almost didn't come to work.
Oh, that would have been really bad for me. I would have been stuck here without you, Marco.
Yeah, you would have had to do the podcast all by yourself.
Oh, no.
Actually, I had the same symptoms as Julie. I also had a headache, and I had a sore throat. And also, the worst thing and the thing that I hate the most is I had a runny nose.
Oh, no, that's really bad because then you have to like blow your nose all the time and then it gets red and it hurts, right?
Exactly, yeah. Luckily, I didn't have a fever, though. No fever.
Thank God.
Yeah.
So did you take some medicine and it just killed everything?
Yeah, I had a friend and he had some pills for the flu. And he just gave me a couple and I felt better in about 2 days.
Oh, great. Well, so guys, let me tell you about a very funny thing that really happens in real life in Egypt.
What story do you have for us today?
Well, it's actually not a story, it's a fact. I mean, people in Egypt, when they're sick, they never call in sick themselves. They'll have someone do that for them.
Oh, that's interesting. Why? Why do they do this?
Well, there's this weird speculation about, if you can make it to the phone, you can make it to the office.
I agree. If I were a boss, I would do the same thing.
Yeah.
All right, listeners, we're out of time today, but be sure to visit our website at englishpod.com where you can see other lessons and also you can leave your questions and comments at our community forum.
We hope you enjoyed our lesson, and tomorrow we will be back with another fantastic lesson for you. But for now, it's bye.
Bye.
Other examples. The second paragraph of the dialogue.
Hey everyone, you ever wake up and just know you need to call out sick? We've all been there. Today we're diving deep into calling in sick.
Ooh, interesting.
And not just what to say, but how to make it sound believable.
Okay.
Plus, we'll uncover some cultural differences, especially from Egypt, about taking sick leave.
Really?
Yeah. Luckily, I've got an expert here to break it all down for us.
Well, calling in sick can be a tricky thing. There are so many cultural norms and expectations in the workplace to think about. It's fascinating.
So true. So let's start with the basics. Our sources mention phrases like, I'm feeling quite ill today, or I'm coming down with the flu. Why do those seem to work?
I think it's because they strike a good balance. They're direct about not being able to work, but they don't sound like you're being dramatic.
That's true.
Like I'm feeling quite ill, gets right to the point, and I'm coming down with the flu, gives a reason without needing a long explanation.
That's a good point. I also noticed in the sources that how these phrases were said really changed how believable they sounded.
Oh, for sure. Your tone of voice is key. You want to sound sick, but like you're not faking it.
Yeah.
Think about it. If you hear, I'm feeling quite ill today in a flat voice, are you going to believe them?
Not really. It wouldn't be very convincing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
A good tip from the source material is to practice what you'll say beforehand. I know it sounds kind of silly, but you'll be able to find that sweet spot between sounding unwell and not overdoing it.
Okay. So we've got the phrases and the tone down.
Yeah.
But there's more to it, right? Even the phrase calling in sick is interesting. It's like you're announcing you need a break.
I like that observation.
Yeah?
Calling in sick implies you need to communicate you're sick and can't work. It really shows how we use language in these situations.
Yeah. And then there's how we ask for the time off. The sources had the phrase, I was hoping to take the day off to recover, which felt much more polite than saying, I can't come in.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When you frame it as a request, it shows you respect your boss and how things work at your job. This small change in wording can make a big difference, especially in a professional setting.
Okay, so using the right words is important for sounding genuine and keeping things professional.
Exactly. Now, are you ready for a cultural difference?
Okay.
The source material talked about this fascinating custom in Egypt where you have someone else call in sick for you.
Really? Wow, that's wild. Never heard of that before.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It comes from the belief that if you're well enough to call yourself, you should be well enough to work. So having someone else call for you means you're really sick and you respect your workplace.
That's a totally different way of looking at it. I can't believe how something like calling in sick can be so different depending on your culture.
I know. It really shows how communication isn't just about the words we use. Cultural context and unspoken rules can affect how we interact with each other, especially in the workplace.
So true. So we've talked about Egypt, but how do these differences play out in a more global work setting?
That's a great question. That leads us to talk about how cultural differences can affect communication and what's expected when it comes to taking sick leave.
Awesome. Let's get into that.
We were talking about that Egyptian custom of having someone else call you in sick. It really shows how what's considered normal or polite changes from culture to culture.
It's amazing how something as simple as calling in sick can cause misunderstandings at work, especially now that everyone works with people from all over.
Exactly. And it's not just about avoiding awkwardness. It's about understanding and respecting different ways of communicating. Like imagine a boss who's used to being very direct having an employee who's not. The boss might think the employee isn't being honest about needing a sick day when they really are.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
So how do we deal with these cultural clashes,
Yeah.
especially when people at work come from different backgrounds?
Well, first, it's about being aware of different cultures. And it's
Yeah.
not just about knowing the customs, but understanding why those customs exist. For example, in some cultures, it's all about the group and working together. So if someone needs a sick day, they might not want to because they don't want to let their coworkers down.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's not just about being polite, it's about the whole culture.
Right. And that's why it's important to be open with each other. When people feel like they can talk about their culture and what's expected when it comes to sick leave, then it's less likely there will be problems.
So making a place where people can talk and understand each other is key. But what about actually doing it? Like, are there any tips to help deal with these cultural differences?
Yeah. One tip is to think about communication styles. Some cultures are very direct, while others are more indirect. So say you're a manager and you have a team member who comes from a culture where it's rude to say no. You'll need to pay attention to how they say things and their body language to really understand what they mean.
So paying attention to those little things can make a big difference.
Absolutely. And remember to listen. When someone's asking for a sick day, especially if they're from a different culture, really listen to what they're saying, both with words and how they act. Don't jump to conclusions. If you need to, ask questions to make sure you understand.
Those are great tips for making the workplace better for everyone. Now, before we go on, I want to get back to something we talked about earlier, how remote work affects calling in sick.
Yes, that's an important topic. Remote work is changing how we think about sick leave.
Right? It seems like there are a lot of questions about it.
Yeah.
Like you have the flexibility to work from home if you're a little sick, but still able to do some work.
And some people might even prefer to work from home when they're a little sick. That way they don't have to go to the office and get others sick.
But then there's also the problem of working too much and not resting enough when you're really sick. It's easy to forget to separate work and life when you're working from home.
That's a great point. When you're always working, it can be hard to take a break even when you need to. We might feel like we have to keep going even when we're sick just because we're already at home.
And you might not realize someone's sick if they're not in the office.
Right.
Like if someone doesn't turn their camera on for a meeting, you might think they're not paying attention when they're actually just too sick.
Exactly. So when you're working remotely, being clear about how you're feeling is really important. You need to actually say you're sick and need a day off, even if you're technically online.
It's like we need new rules for calling in sick when everyone's working from home.
I think you're right. We need to change how we think about sick leave and how we talk about it in this new world of work.
So how do we balance flexibility and responsibility? How do we make sure people feel okay taking a sick day when they need it without making people feel bad for working from home when they're a little sick?
Those are great questions. They make us think about the things that make people worry about taking sick leave.
So we've talked about what to say, cultural differences, and even working from home. But isn't there always this worry about actually calling in sick?
Yeah, there is. Calling in sick isn't just about saying you don't feel well. It can bring up all sorts of feelings about work and what people think.
Right, like you feel bad letting your team down, or you worry your boss will think you're not reliable.
Exactly.
And sometimes you don't want to seem weak or like you're not dedicated to your job. It's a lot of pressure.
It is. And these worries can get even worse in workplaces where people think you have to come in even when you're sick to show you're a hard worker.
Ugh, that's the worst. It's not healthy for anyone, and it can actually make everyone at work sick and less productive.
You're right. It doesn't make sense. And it makes me wonder how these worries about calling in sick are affected by different cultures.
Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more.
Okay, so imagine someone from a culture where it's really important to be strong and work hard. They might be even more afraid to call in sick because they think it makes them look bad.
That makes total sense. It's like their culture makes these situations even more difficult.
Yeah, exactly. And we also have to remember that sometimes these worries aren't just personal. They're because of bigger problems, too. Think about places where people don't get many sick days or might lose their jobs easily. In those cases, people might be scared to call in sick because they need the money or don't want to get fired.
It's sad that sometimes people have to choose between their health and their job. So how can we change things and make work a place where people feel safe taking care of themselves?
I think it starts with talking about it. We need to make it okay for people to talk about these worries without being judged.
Yeah.
And bosses and managers need to set a good example by taking sick days themselves and encouraging their employees to do the same.
It's about changing how we think about it, right?
Yeah.
Not pushing through when you're sick, but understanding that it's okay to rest.
Exactly. It's about realizing that taking care of yourself is important. And when you're healthy, you're a better worker and everyone benefits.
So to wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave everyone with something to think about. We've talked about what to say, cultural differences, working from home, and the stress of calling in sick. But what about the future? How do we imagine workplaces that really care about people's well-being in a world that's always getting busier and more demanding?
That's a great question. Maybe it starts with understanding that taking care of ourselves is not a luxury. It's something we all need. And perhaps it's time to stop thinking of sick leave as a bad thing and start seeing it as a way to make work healthier, more productive, and more focused on people.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Remember, taking care of yourself is important.
Vocabulary Preview.